Our speaker today is Stephen Campbell. After working in hospital administration for 20 years, Stephen acquired his master's at the University of San Francisco and went on to pursue his greatest love, which is teaching. As both a university professor and educational dean in Northern California for another 20 years, he now presents easy-to-understand principles on the brain that can be immediately applied to improve the quality of our thoughts and lives. He writes columns in the Community Voice, the Christian Bee, and Napa Valley Life magazine, and is author of Making Your Mind Magnificent, Flourishing at Any Age. Please welcome Stephen Campbell.
We need to go way.
Oh.
Sorry.
Started with the back.
Okay,
This was a learning,
okay, you ready?
learning training.
First of all, it's really interesting that while I am talking to you right now, you're talking to yourself about 3-4 times faster. But what is even more interesting is the fact that while you are talking to yourself, your brain is believing everything you tell it, without question. Ugh. So when you say, I just can't do this, you know what your brain says? Okay. But then it makes sure you can't. That's the scary part. Here's the wonderful part. When you say, I can do this, what does your brain say to that? Okay. And then if you can't, you know what your brain becomes? It becomes obsessed with helping you do it. In other words, everything that you are is based on what you say to yourself about yourself today. This is called cognitive psychology. And it has really, when it came out in the early 60s in a little book called The Guide to Rational Living, it turned psychology on its ear. Because prior to that, psychologists said, no, the way you are today is because of unresolved childhood conflicts. Recognize that? That's called Freudianism. Okay? That was followed by behaviorism, Skinner's box. Remember him? Okay? That was cause and effect. That was followed by environmentalism. They said, no, the way you are today is because of your birth order and your mom and your dad and your church and your family and da. Cognitive came along with Dr. Ellis, who founded it, and he said they're all correct. Well, wait a minute. How could they be all correct? Because that's what you're saying to yourself. And your brain makes that true. And so let me give you another point. If everything that you say, everything that you are is based on what you say to yourself about yourself today, when can you change that? When can you change that? Right now. Before you leave today. Whoa. You ready for this? Okay, hang on to your seats, because this is going to be really cool. First of all, we need to answer the question, what if you say it's not true? You know what? Your brain doesn't even care. The brain doesn't even care. There's a wonderful book called Phantoms in the Brain, written by Dr. V.S. Ramachandran. Phantoms referring to phantom's limbs that have been amputated. And the patient goes into a doctor's office and he says, my arm is driving me nuts. And the doctor has to say, well, I wish I could help you, but I amputated that arm 6 months ago. And the patient says, we've got to tell my brain that, because my brain doesn't know that. So the brain doesn't care whether what you say is true or not. And we're going to take that at the very, very end, and we're going to teach you how to change how you think. Okay? Okay. First of all, we need to start about how you learn. So this is our daughter, Sarah. And this is her brain about 30 years ago in terms of what she knew about a city. She was raised in Rohnert Park. Has anyone ever been in Rohnert Park? Yeah. Okay, the closest thing to a city is the Raleigh Shopping Center in Rohnert Park. Okay, so she knows nothing about a city. So here's how she learns. I'm going to show you how you learn by demonstrating with Sarah. Mary and I say, we need to teach Sarah about the city, so I say, okay, I'll read her a book. Here's what the brain does. The brain records that book as an image, a neural cluster. I'll show you a picture of one in a second. The brain records another book that I read to her, then we show her some people and some buildings and all these other things, and the brain's recording all this stuff. Now, when she goes to sleep at night, the brain is more active when she's asleep than when she's awake. We know that through positron emission tomography studies. And what the brain does when she goes to sleep is it tries to make sense out of all the stuff that she learned during the day. So it looks at all these things and says, okay, here's a book about a city, here's a book about a city. They're really related, but there's no connection. So I'm going to create a connection between those two neural clusters. Here's another relationship, and I need to create another connection. And what you're watching now is you're watching Sarah learn. This is what your brain does when it learns. This is what your brain is doing at night when you're asleep. It's trying to make sense out of all the stuff that you're giving it. And over time, what happens is it develops what is called a pattern of a city. And now Sarah can see other cities and not freak out because she knows that the city have got people and lights and cars. Now, I work with a lot of seasoned adults. That's my word for seniors. I do not use the word seniors. We are called seasoned adults, okay? And they ask me, how much can I still learn? How much can I still grow? Well, let me answer that. What they're really asking is, how many patterns can our brain carry here? Well, the patterns are based on the connections. So we determine how many connections your brain can carry. That will give you an idea of how much you can still learn and grow. So let's do that. We know through the latest study that the brain's got about 100 billion brain cells, neurons. Each of those are connected to around 10,000 other cells. So you're not talking about a multiple, you're talking about power here. So the number of connections that your brain can carry is 100 billion to the power of 10,000. Oh yeah, okay. You know what that is? That's 100 billion times 100 billion times 100 billion, 10,000 times. To write that number out in longhand, you start with the number 1, you follow it by 6.5 million miles of zeros. Hello. Okay. Now, here's an actual picture of prefrontal cortex tissue. Can you see the clusters? Can you see them? That might be a book. That might be lights. That might be skyscrapers. There's the connections. Dr. Ramachandran says if you take the speck of brain the size of the grain of sand, you end up with 100,000 neurons and 2 million axons and 1 billion synapses in that little speck of brain. Now, let me slow down. I'm here to help you change the way you think. If I give you all this stuff as academic, it's not going to do you any good. So I want to make this real to you. So let me demonstrate to you personally how many patterns your brain can carry. And to do that, I want you to read this with me out loud. We'll do it together, okay? Starting with the top. Here we go. The phenomenal power of the human mind. Can you read this? I couldn't believe that I could actually understand what I was reading. According to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters of a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a pattern. Amazing, huh? Yeah, and I thought spelling was important. Give yourself a hand. Now, there are 4 misspelled words in this paragraph. 2 of them are on the bottom line. What are they? Misspelled words. What are they? Important is misspelled. What's another one? Problem is misspelled. You already saw it. Yes. Thought is misspelled. There's one more up on this line right here. Because. Yeah. Doesn't that blow you away? Okay, so what am I saying here? Okay. Here's my important, okay, good. This is my important spot. Everyone look at me. Pencils, forks, knives, spoons, everything down. Okay? Don't want you to miss this. Here we go. The primary element that holds you back from learning and growing and changing then, based on what we just said, is simply what you say to yourself. The primary element is what you say. When you say, I just can't do this, what does your brain say? Okay, you're right. You can't. Is it true? Don't care. I don't even care. I don't even ask the question. All I care is what you tell me. Which means that when you say, I'm doing this, what does the brain say to that? Absolutely. Okay. Isn't that exciting? You mean it's really up to me? Yeah. That's scary but wonderful. Wait till we get there. Wait till this room is going to be so quiet. Okay. Now, first of all, let's talk about this. Even with your brain, did you know that your brain takes shortcuts? It takes shortcuts. What does this say? What does this say? A bird in the bush. Good. It does not say a bird in the bush. It does not say a bird in the bush. How many does? Hello, right there, okay? And yet your brain said, oh, I know this is easy, flash it forward, except it was wrong. My dear Rotarians, and I'm a Rotarian myself, what we now know is that your brain is wrong a lot when you talk about yourself. Oh, I was so stupid for doing that. When you say that, what does your brain say? Okay. Is it true? Don't care. All I care is what you tell me. Do you know what I'm going to teach you how to become? I'm going to help you become a healthy skeptic. You're going to quit saying some of the crap that you say to yourself. Starting today. You excited?
Yeah,
Whoa. Here's another one. I showed this to Mary. We've been married for a long time. She called me a liar, which she has never done before. I told her that the A square and the B square are the same color. She said, you're crazy. The A is dark, the B is light. And I said, no, that's the same color. She said, prove it. She's from Michigan. So I said, okay. Can you see the bar there? It's the same color there, same color there. And yet if I put it back, the A is dark, the B is light. What does the B have the A doesn't have? Shadow. So when your brain sees something in shadow, it makes it lighter so you can see it better. In other words, my dear friends, your brain's been fooling you your entire life. And you didn't know it. But now you can call them on it. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. Isn't that neat? Whoa. Here's another one. Count how many letter F's you see in that sentence. How many F's are there? F's, letter F's. Okay, we got 15 minutes. Letter F's, how many F's? Keep it to yourself. 1, 2. I'll give you, we don't have a lot of time, so I'll just give the answer. There's 7. There's 7 F's. You skipped over the U's. You skipped right over the U's. Because the U's don't have an S sound, they got a B sound. So the brain said the U's don't count, so I'll just skip over those. Psychologists call these scotomas. You skip right over them. There they are. So here's a principle. People behave and act not according to the truth, but the truth is they perceive it to be. Here's one of my favorite heroes. This gentleman entered the first Australian Marathon back in 1983 at the age of 62. His name was Cliff Young. He's all over the internet. He was, those are not Nikes, those are called muck boots. When they asked what, and by the way, his coach was his 89-year-old mother. Okay, he was toothless when he showed up, and he competed against 150 of the top runners in the world who all flew to Australia for this race. And they interviewed Cliff. They said, what are you doing here? He said, I have spent my life on a 2,000-acre farm. I'd have to chase my sheep on foot. So this sounds really fun. I mean, this is a 5-day race. I run sheep for 3. So they started the race, and with this kind of story, what do you think happened? He won, of course. I mean, there you go. But he beat the other record runners by a day and a half. What did he do? Well, if you run like this, you run for 18 hours and you sleep for 6. Cliff didn't know that. He didn't know you're supposed to sleep. So while all the other races were sleeping, he just kept on running. Okay? Now that's really inspirational. Okay, important spot. Everyone look at me. Got it? Here we go. Okay. I am not here this afternoon to inspire you. Because you know and I know that inspiration lasts for maybe 3 days at the most. And then you go back to the old ways. I'm here to help you change the way you think. So let me tell you what happened the next year. The next year they had the same race. Cliff showed up, couldn't finish it. 8 runners beat his record. And they asked him how they did it, and they said, simple, we looked at Cliff Young. And if Cliff Young can do it, what did their brain say? I can do it, and the brain said, absolutely. Now there's 15 principles in my book that are here that I'm giving to you with a Rotary special of $20 because I'll pay for the tax. But the 2 most principles ones are the brain believes you should tell it, and this next one, okay? Well, before I get it, I don't have time, I'm just going to sort of go over this, we don't have really time. Okay. Here's another principle. The brain locks onto what you lock onto. This has to do with what is called the reticular activating system. For those of you who are physiologists, it starts here at the basal ganglia, and I'll just give you one story because that's all we have time for. When I was a little boy, my dad taught me how to ride a bicycle. He took me out to this training field, took the training wheels off. And then before he gave me a little push, he said, now you see that rock out there in the road? Yes, Daddy. Don't run into that rock. So I got down on the bike, hands on the handlebars, eyes locked onto the rock so I wouldn't run into it. What happened? That's the way your brain works. That's the reason that worrying is simply nothing but negative goal setting. That's all it really is. Okay? Here's the few principles I'm going to leave with you, and then we're going to apply them, and then we'll close. Number one, the brain believes what you tell it without question. Number two, it locks onto what you lock onto. You decide. Okay? Now, we're going to sort of skip through all through these. And then, okay. Let's skip through this. Okay. Now, I've given you a lot of information. And if I stopped here, you would forget most of this by tomorrow. I mean, it's not that you're not listening, but it's the way your brain works. And the reason is because the information is over here on the left side, and the real you, your feelings, your emotions, your desires are on the right side. Okay? Okay, and we know this through studies, through Dr. Roger Sperry's brain experiments, through My Stroke of Insight, Jill Bolt Taylor, all sorts of other books that I could, but just trust me, the feelings are all right, the real you, and the knowledge is on the left. Okay? So what I want to do now for the last 7 minutes is to give you this information that you can use and take home as you're walking out the door and put it over here. So it's real in your life. You can begin working with yourself and your husband and your wife and your kids and this stuff, okay? Okay, you ready to go? Okay, here we go. First of all, principle number one, two new ways of thinking. So I call it two new ways of thinking. Here's number one. This is from Stanford University, early 70s. What they discovered is that most of us pass over our successes too quickly, too lightly for them to ever become a part of our self-image. So when someone says, good job to you, do you know what we say? Oh, not really. Oh, it could have been better. Oh, that's embarrassing. Oh, that's egotistical. I was part of a team. That's not really true. I'll try better next time. Don't say that. Oh, guy. Oh, plush. Oh, boy. My dear friends, when you say, oh, no, what is your brain saying? Okay. And that compliment never becomes a part of you. That's sad. Are you with me?
Yeah.
So here's your new way of thinking, and this is going to change how you see yourself. Number one, when someone comes to you and says, you look great, or you did a really good job, I'm really proud of how well you did this. You look at them and you smile and you say, thanks, I know. Now, I was at Huntington Beach last year doing an 8-day seminar for 150 Kaiser physicians and hospital staff. And they reacted just like you did, which really surprised me. Because if you're a doctor, you got to be egotistical. That's the very nature of it. And they reacted, they just laughed the same way you did, which I was really surprised. But I'll tell you, they love me. They love me. They bought my book and my video and my audio, and they called me up, and I needed to come up and see Moments with Stephen. They just thought I was the cat's pajamas. And I was so excited. When I was driving back to the airport, I almost turned off the freeway. I mean, I almost drove it off. So I stopped at a Chevron, got a tuna sandwich and a Coke. I was alone in my rental car. And while the gas was filling up, I looked in the passenger mirror, and I just said, oh, you're such a good teacher. You really are. And what did my brain say, according to what we learned today? What did it say? You really are. Now, here's another one. This is so exciting. This is from University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Martin Sullivan. You know what we also know is when I said to myself, you are a really good teacher, my brain not only agreed, hold on to this, it also said, and you could even be better. So next time, let's try this and that and this and that. We'll put this out and put this in, and it opened up the gate. And I thought of all sorts of different ways to become a better teacher. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah.
Now, if I had said, oh, you screwed up here and screwed up there and I screwed up there, because I did. I mean, a lot of plain ladies says, what would happen to the gate, everyone? Clam shut. You with me? Okay, so let's make this handleable, and you're going to start on the way out today. When someone compliments you from now on, rather than say no, you simply smile and you say thanks, and you say that makes me feel really nice. Can you do that? Okay, that's doable. Okay? Then when you get by yourself, you say, oh my goodness, I'm so good. I'm really good. Okay? Let me picture it for you. Visualize it. Wallow. Okay, here's my important part. Don't miss this. Wallow in your success like a pig in slop. Wallow in it. wallow in it. When you do something good or semi-good, you say, oh my goodness, I'm so good. And the brain just says, yeah, you really are. When I wrote my book, the original title was Making Your Mind Your Mentor. You know what a mentor is? It's your bestest friend. It sees more in you than you see in yourself. That's when your brain can become to you. And that's when it becomes really, really exciting. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you ready for the great stuff? Okay, this is the best. It's all leading to this one. Throw away the list. Throw away the list. You know what the list is? The list is when you make those big bonehead mistakes and you say, oh my goodness, how could I have been so stupid? And you know what your brain says when you say that? The brain says, I know. Remember that dumb thing you did yesterday? And that dumb thing you did the day before and a month before and a year? Do you remember how you were the slowest reader in the 3rd grade? And do you know what we do? Is we get out this list and we go down the list of all the dumb things we've ever done. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is really important to understand. When you're going down all those mistakes and remembering them, the brain does not know that those memories happened a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. The brain's recording them again, but this time as if they happened when? Right now. Okay, now, everyone look at me. Don't miss this. I get teary-eyed, and I promise Mary I wouldn't do this, but okay, here you go. Ready? My dear friends, you don't have to do that anymore. Starting when? Right now. First of all, throw away the list. You need it when you were kids, you don't need it anymore. Learn from your mistakes, but throw away the list. Number two, what do you do instead? Use 3 wonderful words, and the words are simply, the next time. The next time I'll do it this way. The next time I'll do it that way. And when you say the next time, you're saying 3 things. Number 1, you're saying there is a next time. How many next times do we get? Isn't that great? Many as you want. I don't want to be with the Lord until I'm 104. I'm 66, so I got 38 more years before I have to go with the Lord, okay? If I use, and I use this my Excel spreadsheet to figure this out, if I use 1 next time a day, by the time I die, I will have used almost 15,000 more next time. That's just 1 a day. I use a lot more than that. So I plan to use a lot of next times, okay? Number 2, when you say the next time, what you're really saying is, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still making mistakes. In fact, sometimes I'm still failing. But that does not mean I am a failure. It just means I'm still learning. When Thomas Edison was asked how it felt to fail 999 times looking for the filament of that light bulb, he said, I did not fail 999 times. I simply found 999 ways it didn't work. Isn't that great? And if you're older, you've already made the big mistakes in your life. The rest are going to be the piddly ones. Isn't that wonderful? Wow. I love that. Now, number 3. Number 1, you have as many next times you want. Number 2, you're still learning, you're still growing. Number 3, and this one is the best. What you're really saying is, when you say the next time is, I will never give up. Ever. So it doesn't work sideways, I go flat ways, or slant ways, or underways, or overways, or through, or whatever ways it takes until I get there. And this whole thing is a pattern. Let me illustrate. When our first daughter learned how to walk, Mary and I were there. We were so excited. She was walking back and forth on the couch. Finally, being moment, she looked at us, and we looked at her, and encouraging her. She took her first step, and she fell flat on the carpet, on the floor. And she looked up at us. I'll never forget this. And she said, well, Dad, Mom, I guess I was never meant for walking. Did she say that? No. She took 2 steps and then she fell. 3 steps and then she fell. She's 38. Is she still falling? Yes. Why? Because she's still walking. And falling is part of walking. But what's also part of it? You get up. And you get up. And you get up. And the whole time the brain just says, what? Okay. Is it true? Don't care. All I care is what you tell me. One last story and then we'll close. I was teaching this in colleges, various universities, and one day I was waiting to get on the freeway to go to where I was teaching this. And a kid came up in this SUV, one of those big, huge SUVs, the big tires and the batteries. He looked at me, I looked at him, and I had my little Toyota there, and the light changed, and he went peeling out in front of me, roaring up the freeway, showing everyone else the power of his SUV. And as I watched this whole scenario, I had this epiphany. The epiphany was, how many cars are already in front of him? Millions, I don't know. How many cars are behind him? Millions, okay? So maybe it's not a matter of how fast you get there. Maybe, just maybe, it's a question of you're going in the right direction. And sometimes you run out of gas, and sometimes you get a flat tire. Sometimes you even lose your way. But you know what? You can buy some more gas. You can replace the tire. You can get them out. And what's so wonderful about the brain is the brain just says what, everyone? Okay. Now, is it true? Don't care. All I care is what you tell me. You say it, I believe it. And then when you lock onto it, you know what I'll do? I will do everything I can to make it true in your life. Wow. Thank you.
You're a very good teacher.
I know. So
I know it.
We'd like to give you either a bottle of Concannon wine or Olivina olive oil. You're welcome. Thank you for coming.